Welcome to the November 20th, 2016 Guitar Blog episode on Triad Chord Voicings in solo guitar. Now, Triad chord types produce a majority of the music we listen to, and they're found in pretty much every music style. And the way that they're generally used in most cases is through larger chord voicings. Often we call them bar chords based off of primarily the 6th and the 5th guitar strings. However, triads can also be applied in other ways. They're a little less common application, and this includes being performed rapidly as chord patterns that take advantage of inversion processes. So you could use the 3rd in the bass, 5th in the bass, some will be root position, but they'll invert along the neck. And triads used this way are played very laterally with a focus on generally just using 3 set string groupings. So you could use it off the top 3 strings, middle 3 strings, or even in between. But what happens here is when the triads are applied this way, they can work very functionally for creating a strong enough part that will stand on its own even as a lead segment, or it could be even used in a guitar solo or even some kind of lead riff in a song. So let's begin some training on this by trying out some triad parts that are going to operate in this fashion. Okay, so let's take a look at example number 1. It's a melodic 4th string based major and minor triad riff. It's just going to operate between 4th and 2nd strings. We're using smaller 3-note triad shapes, as you could tell there when I played the example, and they move very laterally along the neck. And this kind of chord movement that we have with these triads, it tends to do that. Now in example 1, we're going to be using key of G major, and we're going to have this triad melody applying shapes found only, like I said, between 4th and 2nd guitar strings. First thing you want to do is grab your handout, study how the shapes move and how you can employ the best fretting hand fingering to develop the patterns so that they flow smoothly from one shape into the next. And now what I'm going to do is just walk through the whole part and have you understand how it all operates. We're going to start off with a bar idea we're doing with our index finger on the 7th fret region, and that's going to be a D chord. And then all I got to do to make my next chord, the G major, is just place down my 3rd finger on 4th string 9th fret and my middle finger going on the 2nd string 8th fret. I just keep that index where it was on the 7th fret of 3rd string. Then I'm going to drop down a whole step into 5th position. I'll bar again, and that's going to be a C major. Obviously if that was a D at 7th, going to 5th creates a C. And then what we're going to do is jump back another whole step, and we're going to grab a G major. Now that G major is very straightforward. It's just using ring, middle, and index fingers on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. And if you're familiar with a typical F chord, which you probably are, it's just that same shape but moved up into 3rd position. And that makes sense too, doesn't it? If that's an F, then that's a G. And that takes care of half of the progression right there. Next thing we're going to do in the 3rd measure, though, is we're going to spice it up a little bit with some 8th note movement. We're going to have some 8th notes coming in right off the top there on the 1st beat of 3rd measure. We're going to start with a shape that's very similar to something we did already. It's going to be the shape that we use for the G major. Up at the 7th position, we're just going to drop it down to 2nd position now, and down there it turns into a D major. Up at 7th it's a G, down over here it's a D. Now we're going to go from that into the open strings, which will generate the sound of a G major chord. Then we're going to move up into the 5th position, and we're going to move into some minor chords here. We'll have a small bar that we're doing on the 3rd and 2nd strings with index finger, and we'll use our 3rd finger on the 4th string for a bass note, creating a root position A minor, and then we'll move that up a whole step to B minor. Then we'll move up a half step, and we'll do another major shape like we had seen from the G chord earlier on, but now we're in 8th position, and that gives us a C chord. And then we move up another whole step to get a D major to wrap things up. And this can stand on its own. It can loop. It could be just an intro part to a song. You could go into other chords later. But here's what it sounds like played from the top again. Okay, so it's really kind of a fun part. It can loop real nice, or like I said, it could stand on its own. It's in the key of G major, and it's just using a few chords from the key, a couple of majors, a couple of minors. But the first step that I would suggest doing is get accustomed to how these are being laid out, understand where the notes are. You know, don't just look at it as a shape. I know that everybody wants to do that in the beginning, but analyze the notes. You know, in this first chord where we're barring at 7th fret, there's an A right at that bass tone there. And then we move over to the 3rd string and we get our D. And then we go up to the high string and we've got an F sharp. So there's your chord tones of the D major chord. You know, do some analysis with this stuff. Look at how it's all laid out. Understand how you can get used to understanding the actual name of these chords, because, you know, these shapes are a little bit different than your standard, you know, bar chords that you might have along the neck. And you have to see these smaller triads that we're working on here as being pieces of a bigger chord shape. You know, like for instance, down here, I've got this huge bar chord G major, but inside that G major, there's a little 3-note chord, which is one of the chords we're using in this tune. That D that we have coming after that, that little 3-note chord, it's an F sharp, an A, and a D down in the 2nd position. The root of that chord is down here on the 5th string. So, you know, develop ways of understanding how the chord's been laid out into the smaller triad shape and get accustomed to understand where the roots are. So that's example 1. We're going to take a short break. I'll give you a chance to go and work on that, and then we'll come back in example 2, and we're going to go to the top 3 strings on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings, do some triad movement there, and just do some little bit of different things. We'll look at some arpeggiated concepts as well. But we'll come back in a moment and check out example 2. If you want to learn the modes and get a really good understanding for how they can be used musically to write songs, play a solo, or compose melody lines, then you're in luck. My ebook, Using the Major Scale Modes, is a comprehensive manuscript outlining exactly how modes are used in respect to harmony and to compose or improvise melodic ideas. Over 50 pages of scale patterns, example progressions, and music theory all come together to create a comprehensive method on how to use the modes that's easy to understand. Using the Major Scale Modes is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com. Okay, so let's look now at example number 2. It's got a little bit of a funky side to it, and we're just going to switch to the application of the triads now constructed from off of the 3rd guitar string. So we're just working on strings 3, 2, and 1 on the top 3 guitar strings there. And this melodic triad riff, it's going to function within the key of B minor. The chord changes operate kind of as a 2-part concept. If you're looking at the chart there, you can see measures 1 and 2 form sort of an initial repeating vamp, and the 3rd and 4th measures are going to come in as sort of a follow-up phrase, acting to either complete the idea if you wanted to do that, or just take the riff back to the top and repeat the whole part as an entire song section or something. So first of all, let's take a look into the first part of it, where we've got the 16th note, you know, sort of funky groove there off B minor. So it's going to be a bar on the top 3 strings, 7th fret. Then we're going to move over to a D, so we'll have the D, F sharp, and A tones, 7th and 5th fret on top, 7, 7, and 5. And then we're going to move into the 6, dropping down. So what happens there is, as we take the 7th frets, dropping down into the 6th, 5th frets, like that, 6, 5, 5, we change from a D major to an A major. And, you know, if you look deeper into this and understand how all these are being formed, again, these small triads are just pieces of larger chords. That little B minor I started with, that's just a large B minor bar chord, if you're familiar with that, and we're just grabbing the top 3 strings. The D major is a little bit different because we would normally look at it as a typical 5th string root bar chord, but we're also going to add in that high A. That's kind of a hard note to add in unless you do individual fingerings like that, but it's very easy to add in a small triad. You know, just use your 3rd and your 4th and your index finger up top there. Moving down to the A, and the A is, you know, a little small 3-note voicing from the large bar chord, 6-string root bar chord A major. So, you know, I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's going to take too much time, but this is how you should be looking at these chords and viewing them so that you understand what they are. You've got to know that, you know, that's a B minor, D, and A. And if you don't, you're in kind of trouble because it's going to be difficult to know how to apply this stuff. Let's go to the next measure where we're going to use a G major, small G major shape, top 3 strings again, 3rd frets on the first 2 strings there, and then we have on the 3rd string this 4th fret note. And then we're going to move forward and do the same D and A again. And that's how the phrase loops there. We start off on that B minor, then do the D and A, then the G, and then the same D and A. And that's how we're going to phrase that first 2 bars there. All right, so that's first 2. Let's take a look what happens in the latter part of this riff. We're going to move up into the 7th position, and we're going to have a small 3-note major chord. It's going to be a G major there. When we take a look at that shape, it's very familiar probably too, because it's the same shape we use down in open position for standard D major. We're just doing it in 7th position there on the G. We're going to move that up a whole step to an A. Those are 8th notes, by the way, so they're going to change that groove that we had from 16th feel into more of a straight 8th note feel. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and then after that, we're just moving from the G to the A there. In the next measure, we're going to move from a high D major, and that's 11, pardon me, and then 10, 10 on top. So 11, 10, 10, moving to 9, 10, 9, and that changes over from a D shape to an A, and then down into a G, pardon me. So D, A, G. And that's quarter notes into a half note. Then what we're going to do is move back to 5th position. We're going to take hold of that A major chord again that goes 6, 5, 5, and we're going to arpeggiate that. So a little bit of a broken apart sound, breaking it up. And then we're going to move through quickly G major and A major just to wrap things up. And that's kind of a nice sound because it pulls us nicely to the B minor if you did want to repeat this part. There's a very strong resolution to our tonic chord there of B minor. So that's example number 2. It's kind of a nice part. It's kind of long. There's a lot of stuff to cover in there, but I'll play it out for you one more time. Here we go. All right, so that's example 2. So I'll give you a moment to just go to work and study that. You can grab the handout and start working through it. If you don't have access to the website, if you're not a member, I encourage you to get a membership. It's not very much every month. Definitely just, a lot less than taking guitar lessons with a teacher. And there's loads of information on the site, especially the courses are going to be super helpful for you if you're still learning a lot of the introductory and intermediate guitar method stuff. So what I'm going to do is wrap things up at this point. We're going to catch up next in the members area where we're going to carry on with part 2 of the lesson where we're going to get into some more detail, even going to check out some modal stuff as well. So hope to see you in the members area. The Creative Guitar Studio Introductory Guitar Program is a comprehensive 10-lesson system with over 90 pages of material designed to take the most basic guitar student up to an intermediate level of playing. It includes all of the most important open position chords, foundational music theory, and music reading exercises. Plus, every lesson has a detailed answer key to help you correctly understand the material as you study at home. From reading music notation to guitar theory to chords and rhythm guitar, the Introductory Guitar Program will give you the foundation that you need to move up to the next level of playing. The Introductory Guitar Program is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com. Hey, thanks for watching part 1 of this lesson. Be sure to sign up for a membership at creativeguitarstudio.com to watch part 2. In the second half of the lesson, I'm going to be adding in some filler licks around typical triad riffs, and we're going to work out some modal ideas based around surrounding tones and modal chords in the Dorian mode. Plus, as a member, you're going to also be able to download the handout for this lesson plan, which will have detailed explanations of each of the lessons and examples, plus you'll have all the tab for them as well. So I'll see you next in the members area at creativeguitarstudio.com. Thanks for watching. Click here to subscribe to the Guitar Blog Update YouTube channel and never miss another video. Click here to sign up for your free membership to creativeguitarstudio.com. And if you take out a paid membership, you'll get premium content downloads of jam tracks, lesson handouts, and full access to all the members area video lessons.